In a tense meeting of the Interstellar Coalition Council, a warning echoed, "Do not provoke humanity." Ignoring the caution, the Council approved an attack on a small human outpost. They believed humanity to be young and weak. But they were wrong. The clash was not just a fight for survival, it was the beginning of a fierce retaliation from a species that never backs down. Soon, the entire galaxy would learn the price of crossing humankind. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a journey across the stars, where humanity faces not only threats from alien worlds, but the hidden shadows within trust itself. The story you're about to witness is a symphony of danger and hope, intellect and emotion, where every decision could alter the fate of the galaxy. Join me as we dive into a universe where trust is the greatest weapon, and truth is the only path to survival. Are you ready? Let's begin. A cold blue light bathed the chamber of the Interstellar Alliance Council. 10 representatives, each from a different alien species, sat in a circular formation around a hovering hexagonal table suspended in midair. Each name carried the weight of a planet, a civilization, and a history spanning millennia. They rarely gathered in full, only when faced with a decision that could shift the fate of the galaxy. Today's meeting was sparked by a highly contentious matter, whether or not to attack a human research outpost located in the Gamma 9 star belt. Vilak, the representative of the Drevi species, who had once clashed briefly but fiercely with humanity, rose to speak. His silver eyes gleamed with gravity. "I've faced them before," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "And I'm telling you now, do not kill humans. If you do, they will not stop. They will hunt you down to the ends of the galaxy. Not because they are strong now, but because of what burns within them." A low, rasping chuckle echoed from the right side of the table. It was Gorvek, from the planet Varnuk, a crustacean-like behemoth encased in hardened armor. He laughed, his claws scraping the surface of the table with a grating sound. "Vilak, are you trembling over a species that just recently crawled out of their home system? How pathetic." Trivak, the youthful leader of the Zeth species, nodded in agreement. "Humans are nothing but children playing with tools they barely understand. They are reckless, intrusive, and ignorant. Wiping out one of their outposts will teach them where they stand." Vilak clenched his fists. "They're not like the others. You think they're weak, but none of you have seen them fight when they've lost everything. When they're betrayed. When they have nothing left. They turn sorrow into strength. They learn. They evolve. And they come back 10 times stronger." A moment of silence drifted over the chamber. Though few would admit it aloud, many could feel the sincerity in Vilak's words. Yet another voice broke the stillness, "Herein of the Olari species. Beings of superior intellect but devoid of emotional instinct. Data does not support the claim that humans can mount a full-scale retaliation. Their technology remains significantly below that of Tier 4 civilizations within the Alliance. Probability of a galaxy-spanning counterattack is below 2.3%. Vilak gave a dry, bitter laugh. "You're measuring the wrong thing. Their spirit. Not intellect. Not weapons. But the will not to surrender." An elder member, High Matriarch Rena of the Say, an ancient and neutral race, gently interjected. "Vilak, do you have concrete proof? What you speak of, though compelling, remains personal experience." Vilak nodded. "Yes. During the Veil Tor conflict 3 cycles ago, one of our warships attacked a humanitarian convoy of theirs. Within 43 hours, they located us, analyzed our weaknesses, and struck directly at our coordination center. A species that had just barely achieved interstellar flight. Why? Because they don't fear loss. They are willing to sacrifice, just to protect each other." Still, his words weren't enough to sway most of the council. Gorvek slammed a claw down onto the table. "We've tolerated this species for too long. Each time we let them be, they spread further. If we don't crush them now, they'll become a true threat. Just like we did with the Narnak." Vilak shot back. "Eradicate them. oppress them, and then create an enemy that never sleeps? Humans are different. They don't forget. They don't move on. They remember. And they return only if they survive. Trivak replied coldly. We will leave no witnesses. Vilak stood still, silent. He knew his time was running out. He knew the nature of the alliance, logic over emotion, strategy over mercy. But he also knew, once human blood was spilled, there would be no turning back. You may not believe me, Vilak said slowly. But remember these words, do not kill them. If you do, they will return. Not today. Not tomorrow. But they will. And by then, none of us will have time to regret it. The chamber fell silent. Then, the presiding entity, Krell, an unseen being surrounded by pulsating energy fields, spoke. Vote. 10 beams of light shot into the air. 7 green, approval to attack. 3 red, objection. The decision was made. In the corner of the room, Vilak quietly closed his eyes. A warning had been spoken, but it would soon be forgotten. The council chamber fell silent after the vote. Vilak remained standing, his sharp gaze sweeping over each member of the council. The decision had been made. 7 votes in favor. 3 against. The attack would proceed. He drew in a long breath before speaking again, his voice deeper now, burdened, as if unlocking a memory long buried. You think I'm weak because I oppose this attack. But I've ordered the deaths of hundreds of humans. I once believed they were primitive, emotional, and easy to crush. Until the day I captured one of their commanders. A stillness settled over the room. Gorvek crossed his arms and scoffed. But others leaned in. A first-hand account of war with humanity was rare. His name was Marcus Hale. A small man, severely wounded after a raid on our research station. We imprisoned him in a steel cell buried deep underground, 5 security layers. Magnetic locks. No contact. No escape. For weeks. He said nothing. No pleas. No cries. No threats. Just sat there, staring at me with cold eyes whenever I entered. I thought, this one has lost all hope. A corpse that still breathes. Vilak paused, eyes drifting upward as if he could see the past projected above them. We left no trace when we took him. No signal. No witnesses. Every calculation said humanity wouldn't find us. I was wrong. He turned to Trivak. 23 days after Marcus's capture, my base, hidden in the hollow of an abandoned asteroid, was hit. Not by force, but with precision. With strategy. With something I had never seen from any species. They disabled our sensors, sent false signals to mislead us, and breached our 5th security layer, the one even my engineers thought impenetrable. In under an hour, my soldiers lay scattered. They didn't come to retaliate. They came to take him back. Marcus was freed. And before leaving, he turned to me, for the first time, and smiled. Vilak clenched his gloved hand. Not a word. Not a weapon raised against me. But that smile. It was a warning. Herein of the Ollery narrowed his eyes. An effective rescue operation isn't enough to define the human race as dangerous. Vilak. I'm not saying they're dangerous because of weapons or tactics, Vilak snapped. I'm saying they are dangerous because of their will. When they lose someone, they take it personally. When betrayed, they do not forget. When slaughtered, they become fire in the dark. Rena, the elder of the Say, tilted her head. Expression thoughtful. And you believe that makes them more dangerous than species with superior psychic abilities or advanced technology? Vilak nodded. Because every species in this room has a limit. When losses grow too great, we retreat. When the odds turn, we negotiate. But humans fight when nothing remains but will. And that is why they evolve faster than any of us. Trivak stood abruptly, his voice rising. All I hear is sentiment and shadows. We've already voted. The resources at their outpost are critical to interstellar strategy. If they can't hold it, they don't deserve it. Vilak said nothing. He knew his words were now just echoes in the void. The council had made its choice. The assault would begin, but what they didn't understand, what they refused to see, was what a wounded human truly looked like. When that day came, all their logic, calculations, and arrogance would fall before one truth: human vengeance knows no mercy. Vilak turned and left the chamber in silence. Behind him the hum of smug laughter and blind confidence. War was coming, and this time, Vilak would not stand with the council. 7 days after the attack at Earth Union Command Center, where galactic war maps flickered with field data, a heavy silence hung in the air. The main screen displayed footage from Research Station Alpha 9, scorched land, ruins, no signs of life, a wasteland, a declaration of war without words. General Ayla Trin, Supreme Commander of the Rapid Response Force, stared at the screen. She was born and raised in an age of peace, when humanity no longer fought among itself. But that didn't erase the memories of their history, of wars their ancestors had endured and survived, against all odds. "How many did we lose?" she asked, her voice hoarse with restrained fury. 46 scientists, 12 engineers, and the entire security unit. No survivors, replied Deputy Commander Malik, his expression grim. Ayla turned to face the Strategic Council awaiting her decision. They didn't strike a military base. They attacked the heart of progress, a place of healing, not destruction. An older general, his hair white as frost, spoke solemnly. And they left no warning. This was a message: they think we'll be afraid. They don't understand humanity. The room was silent. Then Ayla spoke again, calm but unyielding. They think killing our people will make us back down. But they've made the gravest mistake. A plan began to take shape. Not out of blind vengeance, but to protect, to deter, and if necessary, to teach those out there one simple truth: humanity does not kneel. 4 weeks later, at the edge of neutral space, a covert fleet codenamed Dawnfire emerged from the void. No one in the Galactic Council suspected that humans, barely a century into space, could marshal such a force so swiftly. But they had forgotten, when humanity is pushed to the brink, it doesn't cower. It unites. And it unleashes everything. The flagship Resolute led the armada. On its command deck, General Ayla stood still. Her eyes were not filled with rage, but with the calm determination of someone who had faced the abyss, and stepped beyond it. "We do not come to conquer," she broadcast across the fleet. "We come to deliver justice, not just for Alpha 9. But for all who believe they can kill humans without consequence." On the planet Varnak, one of the main aggressors, sirens blared. Never before had humans launched a strike on a Class 4 world. This time, there were no warnings. They struck Varnak's strategic data hubs, shattered their communications network, and severed every supply line. The attacks were swift, precise, and coldly efficient. There was no needless bloodshed. Every target was chosen with purpose: command bases, supply depots, weapons facilities. Humanity struck hard, clean, and disappeared before Varnak could retaliate. Across other planets, the member species stirred uneasily. What was happening? How could a young and weak species inflict such damage without losing control? At the Interstellar Council, an emergency session was called. Vilak, who had warned them before, remained silent. "Humans have attacked Varnak," one counselor reported, clearly unnerved. "We must retaliate," Gorvek growled. But this time, his voice didn't command unanimous agreement. Another member, one who had once ignored Vilak, now asked, "Could it be that we were wrong?" Vilak slowly rose to his feet, his gaze cutting through the room. "I warned you. Humanity is not stronger than us in technology. But they possess what we've forgotten: courage, memory of suffering, and a relentless will to survive. You touched their pain. And now, they've awakened." Back on Earth, Ayla did not celebrate. In her command office, she studied satellite reports. A network of international outposts had been upgraded and reinforced. She knew this wasn't the end. But at least one message had been sent, clear and sharp as a blade. Never mistake humanity for a species that kneels on the neutral planet of Cyrillon. Once a symbol of intergalactic peace. The Alien Alliance Council convened an emergency session. But this time, the atmosphere was no longer solemn, it was heavy. On the verge of breaking, footage from humanity's retaliatory strike lit up the center of the hall. Varnak had fallen. Strategic outposts obliterated with no time to respond. Supply chains shattered. Communications severed within just 72 hours. Delegates stood one after another. No longer in unison. "We underestimated the humans," bellowed the representative of the Zelari species. "They are not weak. They were simply not angry, until now." "It was a mistake to follow Gorvek and Trivak," shouted another member. Voice full of fury. "You've dragged the Alliance into a war we cannot win." Gorvek, once proudly dismissive of Vilak's warnings, now sat in silence. His war armor still bore scorch marks, remnants of humanity's lightning-fast counterattack. He could not utter a word. Trivak, however, refused to yield. He slammed his fist on the council table, growling, "We are the species that have ruled the stars. We cannot bow to a race that has barely emerged for a century." Vilak rose to his feet. His voice calm yet sharp like steel. "They do not dominate with weapons. They survive through memory, through grief, and through a will the universe has never seen. When they fight for every soul that has fallen. You were wrong to think they feared war. Humans do not fear it, they simply choose peace. Until they are backed into a corner." A long silence engulfed the chamber. No one dared to argue. Elsewhere in the galaxy, minor factions began to withdraw. Formerly neutral species now avoided entanglements. Some even discreetly sent signals to the human union, seeking negotiation or peaceful treaties. After their cold and precise retaliation, humanity made no declarations of victory. They simply withdrew, leaving behind an unspoken message: "Don't try again." Back on Earth, Supreme Commander Elatrin quietly looked to the sky. After the campaign, nations within the human alliance began restructuring their planetary defenses, expanding intelligence networks across space. But most importantly, trust among Earth's nations had never been stronger. "We've won a battle," Ayla said in a closed meeting. "But more importantly, we've shown the galaxy that humanity is ready, not to conquer, but to survive, to unite, and, if necessary, to defend ourselves at all costs." Back in the Alliance Council, fractures deepened. One bloc proposed dissolving the alliance and forming new treaties. Another pushed to open dialogue with humanity, to prevent an escalating war. Gorvek left the chamber without a word. Trivak was recalled by his species to face charges for instigating an unwinnable war. Vilak remained, the last one in the now empty hall. He looked up at the central screen, where a grim message appeared: "Planet Alpha 9, no biological signals detected." He whispered, "I could have stopped this. If only you had listened." Turning away, he left with a quiet grief, not only for the war, but for the arrogance that had always been the deadliest threat to life. After humanity's thunderous assault and the near-total collapse of the old interstellar alien council, a vacuum of power spread across the galaxy. With no unifying order, species drifted into an era of uncertainty. Old powers went into hiding. Neutral planets grew cautious. And rumors of the untouchable humans spread like wildfire. In this chaos, Vilak, the seasoned commander who once tried to stop the war but failed, was invited as an honorary advisor to a newly forming council. This time, it wasn't forged by the strongest factions, but by those who had learned the value of humility, survival, and memory. The first meeting of the new council took place on Aris Prime, a planet once nearly annihilated in ancient wars. The meeting space was no longer a pedestal of power, but a simple circle with a central symbol, a sprouting seed. Vilak stood before the gathered delegates. His face bore scars of war, But his eyes were sharp and clear. "We no longer have time to fight for the title of Masters of the Universe," he began. "What happened to Gorvek and Trivak wasn't just a punishment for arrogance, it was the price of underestimating humanity." A purple-scaled creature from the Morith species, once allies of Trivak, spoke up. "So, are humans now to be the next rulers? Should we bow to them?" Vilak shook his head. "They do not seek to rule. They seek only to survive. But if cornered, they become a force no one can control." He raised a data holo showing a human-engineered space station rescuing refugees from a war-torn alien world, not humans, but others they chose to save, not to retaliate. That's why I believe dialogue is possible. So is building something new. Silence fell over the room. Meanwhile, on Earth, Supreme Commander Elatrin monitored the latest transmissions. The Strategic Command no longer detected military incursions. Instead, over 20 formal requests for communication had been received from various alien species. A message from Maris Prime was prioritized. "We seek to open dialogue with the Human Alliance. Not about war. About shared survival." Ayla sat still, reflective. She remembered the early days when humanity was merely a newcomer to the stars, mocked, threatened. Now, after so much loss, they were being listened to, not because of brute force, but because of the choice they made when power was in their hands. The historic meeting between new council representatives and humanity took place 3 weeks later, at a neutral station orbiting between galaxies. No weapons. No soldiers. Only minds and hearts carrying hope that a new era could begin. Vilak spoke first. "We were wrong. And I, who once fought humanity, witnessed it most clearly. You are not a threat. But you can become a storm if betrayed." Elatrin nodded. Calm but firm. "We do not seek to conquer. But we will never kneel. If we are to share this galaxy, there must be respect. There must be memory." A white-furred Elari delegate softly added. "And there must be truth. From now on, all council decisions will be public. No more meetings in the shadows." The hall echoed with silent agreement. No vote was needed. And so, from the ashes of what seemed like a pointless war, a new alliance was born, not founded on dominance, but on something no one expected to survive among the stars: trust. Though the historic meeting between the Human Alliance and the new council marked the dawn of a peaceful era, not everyone was content. In the remote fringes of the galaxy, where the light of civilization barely reached, remnants of the old council whispered in the shadows. In a desolate belt that once housed a Dravari outpost, a group of mutated beings was gathering, no longer belonging to any species. These outcasts, twisted by war and genetic experiments, retained one thing: their intellect. At their helm stood Zaroth, a former strategist under Trivak. After Trivak's downfall, he escaped with the Council's deepest data on humanity. He believed peace was a lie. To him, humans were a long-term threat, and if they could not be defeated in open war, he would take another path: sow chaos from within. "Humanity cannot be crushed with weapons," he said in the dark. "But they have a fatal weakness: trust." Back on Earth, amidst rare moments of calm, Elatrin received a disturbing report. Mysterious signals were appearing from distant colonies. Small human outposts had suddenly gone silent. At first, it was dismissed as technical failure. But when rescue teams arrived, they found only ruins, and a symbol scrawled in blood, a black eye inside a spiral. Ayla called for an emergency meeting with her strategists. "There's no hard evidence yet, but I believe this isn't a coincidence. This is a message," she said. Her tone sharp and clear. An intelligence officer added, "We've traced similar signals across multiple planets. All of them lead back to one location: the Virex exclusion zone." Ayla frowned. "Assemble a task force. I'm going in." Meanwhile, Vilak, now serving as liaison between humans and other species, received a private message. Bypassing all official networks, it carried a single line: "If you believe the darkness has vanished, then you never understood this universe. The line was encoded in ancient military cipher, used only by veterans of the old council. Vilak knew instantly, part of the old nightmare was still alive. At the Virex zone, a celestial maze of abandoned worlds and endless meteor storms, Isla's team landed on a hidden relay station. There, they found an alien device constantly emitting a strange biosignal. One of the engineers paled. "Commander, this isn't just surveillance. It's broadcasting something into the human nervous system." Ayla stiffened. "What do you mean?" "It's planting false memories. One piece at a time. Fake emotions. Manufactured fear. Hallucinations. Designed to erode trust." Ayla realized the enemy didn't want a frontal war, they wanted humanity to collapse from within. "They know what makes us strong. So now they're aiming at the very reason we hold together." When Vilak was briefed, he stood silent for a long time. "This is the most dangerous kind of war," he said. "Not one of fire, but of quiet division." The new council reconvened. For the first time, the debate wasn't about species politics, it was about how to defend truth, memory, and trust. A young feral delegate spoke up. "If falsehood is the enemy, then our weapons must be transparency and light. We need a truth network, a shared communication grid across all allied species, monitored by all parties." The chamber stirred. Such an idea defied centuries of secrecy. But this time, no one objected. So while Zareth scattered seeds of doubt, humans and their newfound allies began to resist, not with bullets, but with something stronger, clarity and connection. A new kind of war had begun, not with explosions or fleets, but with every message shared, every memory clarified, every lie uncovered. It was a war for truth. Thank you for joining us on this intense and emotional journey. As the gates of space close for now, the question remains, do we, as humans, possess the trust, wisdom, and compassion needed to survive the darkness beyond the stars? Keep wondering, keep questioning, and prepare your heart for what lies ahead, where life, hope, and faith will once again be put to the ultimate test. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share so we can continue this adventure together. Until next time, farewell, and always believe in the light.